welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Meteorologist Justin Storm with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Dean's saying hello to all of those who are watching us on Facebook or YouTube Live or Acres TV. And also a thank you for those of you who are watching or listening to us on WDAY Radio, 93.1 FM, 970 AM. Lots of fun things coming up on the show today. We have a returning guest.
Bridgette, we can hear you typing.
Dr. Fox.
Oh, okay, because I'm trying to type that. You guys, I couldn't see you. What's going on?
Well,
look, technical glitch here.
This whole start is just a little something new here. But Dr. Fox will be joining us again. She's that veterinarian out of Ashley, where we found out that Dr. Pohl wasn't so, what was it, ethical? Is that what it was?
He's, I wouldn't say ethical, but I think some of his practices were considered questionable by other veterinarians.
There we go. That's the way that she said it. Well, she'll be rejoining us at 1:20 this afternoon, so we hope that you stay along and listen to that and call in with any questions or comments throughout the show or with our guests, 701-293-9000. Or you can always send those weather or ag-related topics or questions or comments to our email at weatherorag@flagfamily.com. Got a handful of topics that we're going to try to get to today, including ranchers that are being fined for pumping water in drought conditions. And we're also going to talk about what's in your plant-based meat. Dean, I feel like
plants?
I feel like this probably plants. I got a feeling this is going to get tied in with your McRib somehow. Maybe we'll try and add those two things together.
Hey, don't bash on my McRib.
Your little McRib. There's a reason why it's not on the menu full year.
It's so good.
Have you even had one yet?
Not recently, no. But last time I had it, it's one of those foods you get, we'll just say late at night. It's good late night food.
Bridgette, have you had the McRib? And
Not by choice.
You
Not by
didn't
choice.
like
But,
it, I'm taking it.
Okay, then that's probably because I'm not a huge fast food pork fan, if you will. Also, this kid after college can't do fast food tacos. So there's just some rules I have to have in my life.
I had it one time, and I'll never eat the McRib again. Let's just say that it wasn't very tasty for me. Maybe I didn't eat it late enough.
See, that's the problem.
Maybe.
Well, we've got some snow on radar pushing in from the west and northwest. From just west of Grand Forks through about Valley City, you're seeing a little reduced visibility with a thin band of some light to moderate snow. So as this presses into the valley here within the next hour or so, we will see reduced visibility, but it's pretty quick moving. And after this, we'll keep things quiet for a little bit before more snow redevelops late tonight into tomorrow as cold air. Like it's not cold enough right now. It's colder air.
Wait, it's getting colder?
Yeah, as colder air rushes in from Canada. And windy conditions tomorrow. We're really going to see those winds ramp up out of the northwest. And probably we'll have, I'm sure, a few advisories issued through the area tomorrow for blowing snow, reduced visibility. So if you have any travel plans tomorrow, keep up to date on the forecast. Things might get a little bit tricky in terms of visibility with the blowing snow.
Yeah. So we'll touch on the forecast and what to expect after that. We all know that Thanksgiving's coming up. Well, what is that going to look like? Well, lots of details that we're going to reveal about that. We'll also take a look at national weather and what's going on up in the Great Lakes area. Man, they're getting pounded with some lake effect snow in the forecast. 1 to 2 feet of snow in some spots or more.
Gotta love it.
Man, that's insane. So we'll talk about that. And again, we'd love to hear from you if you want to join the conversation, ask a question, just a comment. 701-293-9000. We'll send you off to ABC News, get you updated with the latest news and headlines, and then we'll be right back.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. The former University of Virginia football player accused of killing 3 and wounding 2 in a shooting on a UVA charter bus made his first court appearance today.
No cameras or audio recordings of the court proceeding, but UVA murder suspect Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. did make his first appearance before a judge. He was without emotion, at times biting his lip and looking downward as his charges were read, including second-degree murder and felony use of a firearm. Jones is accused of opening fire on a school-chartered bus full of fellow UVA students and football players returning from a Washington field trip. 3 students killed, 2 others wounded late Sunday night, followed by a manhunt for Jones until his arrest Monday, more than an hour away from the UVA campus. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
So many students have left the University of Idaho campus. They have decided to hold off on a vigil for 4 students who were killed there until after Thanksgiving. The 4 all found on off-campus housing. Police say the weapon used on them had an edge, possibly a knife, but they aren't saying much more. NATO has now weighed in on the missile that appears to have accidentally hit Poland last night. The first time in the conflict in Ukraine is spread to NATO territory.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg saying the missile blast in Poland that killed 2 people was probably Ukrainian defending against Russian strikes.
This is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility.
Stoltenberg added there was no indication this was a direct attack on Poland. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News, at the Foreign Desk.
Flying somewhere for Thanksgiving, gonna have a whole lot of company.
Our busiest days are going to be next Tuesday and Wednesday and into Thursday morning. And then the very busiest day for us every single year is the Sunday following Thanksgiving. And so if you have some schedule flexibility, schedule around those days or around the busiest times in airports.
That's TSA Administrator David Pekoski, who says they will have enough staff because they're planning to redeploy some officers at slower airports to busier ones. You're listening to ABC News.
If you have certain chronic conditions such as
heart disease,
asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older,
52,
36,
42, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor
about getting vaccinated.
With Prevnar 20.
Do you love working on cars but don't love your current job? If so, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Matthew Carlson, owner of Fix It Forward Auto Care. We're a family-owned full-service auto repair shop looking to hire skilled automotive technicians. With our state-of-the-art shops, great work environment with competitive pay and benefits, you'll enjoy a great job with a bigger purpose and a lot of opportunity for advancement. Visit FixItForwardAutoCare.com to apply. Fix It Forward Auto Care, the name you trust for car repair.
Fix It Forward Auto Care.
Listen, this company in Fargo is paying a $17 per hour starting wage, a possible $750 bonus, hourly increases after 90 days, quarterly wage adjustments, and health insurance benefit at 30 hours per week. Red River Human Services of Fargo. This will be a job you'll be proud of, helping adults with developmental disabilities with a culture and benefits nobody else can match. Apply now at Red River Human Services at rrhsf.org. That's rrhsf.org.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. 110 right now, mostly cloudy. Temperatures in the mid-teens with a southwest wind at 12 miles an hour. A little patchy snow just to our west and north along I-29, mainly just west of the interstate. We'll touch on that here in just a moment. I'm meteorologist Justin Storm here with Ag Director Bridgette Readel and Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. And again, if you'd like to join our conversation at all during the point in our show, ask a question or a comment, feel free to do so. We'd love to hear from you. 701-293-9000. I think we'll start today off with one of these ag topics because this one's kind of piqued my curiosity and what's going on. Bridgette, what's going on with these ranchers that are being fined for pumping water?
Well, I think we've heard there's a drought in the western part of the U.S. Maybe you guys are unfamiliar with that situation. Guys, you got a clue on that one?
I heard something was going on out there.
Yeah, I tried to fix it.
Well, we can only hope that your fixing makes it better. But unfortunately, along the Shasta River, there are about 50 ranchers who needed to be able to move water for their livestock. And because they did it without permits, etc., they are going to be fined. And the fines aren't going to be tremendous. It's going to wind up being about $50 per ranch. but they were pumping water out of the river in order to feed or water their cattle. And the State Department of Ag, as well as the Water Quality Council, is saying, well, this could affect our salmon and other native species, wildlife, etc., which I understand what their point is and why they have those rules in place. The unfortunate thing is this is a drought situation, and the ranchers were doing what they could in order to also preserve their livelihood and not just let animals suffer. So those two things can sometimes conflict with each other. They did shut off their pumps well before a penalty would have jumped to being more about the lines of $10,000 per day. But they did need to take care of things.
How much water did they say? How much water they were pumping out?
They didn't give an amount, but for the ranchers that did it, they were pumping for about 8 days, and they were doing that in defiance of an order that they were not supposed to be using any water at the time.
This is like,
let's see,
$50 total, not $50 per gallon, right?
Correct. Yeah, it was going to total out to about $50 each for those ranchers that were involved.
Salmon, beef. You got to give or take, you know what I mean?
Right. And I completely understand that we've got to balance out what happens with wildlife. But this is all, Mother Nature's putting everything in a different perspective. And so you have to think about what's the thing you got to preserve. Well, we also have to think about the economies, that type of thing. So I understand that the salmon need water too. But these guys were going to have cattle on the ground that were suffering, and we can't let that happen either.
Not at
all.
all.
So it's a bit of a conflict of interest.
And you know, it's worth it for the fine. $50 bucks.
$50, pump a little water for 8 days.
If it helps them out, yep.
Why not?
Yep.
Boy,
you guys have said it's really dry out there, and Dean, didn't you say, as far as like in Nevada and so forth, there just isn't any runoff that's refilling so much of the reservoirs.
There's not, but there has been some good news out in Colorado, which Colorado River Basin feeds down, eventually into the desert Southwest as well. They've got record snowpack for this early in the season up at the higher elevations up there, so that's great news. How long that holds, what the rest of the winter holds, it's going to fluctuate. With the LRC, you're going to have your ridge set up over the west, which is going to basically shut off all the precip. And then you've got another part of the LRC cycle coming in that's going to have that trough digging into the west coast, and that's where I think they're going to get the majority of their snowfall this season. So you'll get a few clippers moving in and a few storms undercutting that ridge. That's going to be the key player out west, is when that ridge sets up, according to the LRC, there's going to be a few of those systems undercutting that ridge on the southern part of the jet stream. And if that does, in fact, kind of pan out for the rest of the winter, that's good news for out west. That will increase their snowpack quite a bit, and that will help with runoff and everything come spring as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you make a good point there, Dean, that if that river system is feeding the desert Southwest, not everybody would think about the fact that there are some very large vegetable production areas in like Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure some of that drains in that direction, and that would feed the irrigation for lettuce and some of those other cole crops that we would normally be getting at different times of the year when we can't raise them here. We've got snow on the ground. So you may think that the weather in those states doesn't affect you, but it affects your plate more than it affects your need to wear a coat.
Exactly. Wait, I thought we got our lettuce and all our beef. I thought we just got that from the grocery store.
Well, that's where I get mine.
Well,
well, no, but there's a lot of people that there's a lot of
No,
people that actually think that they don't put it from farm to table. They don't get the connection. So
right,
yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and it's out there. We know it is. And,
oh yeah.
And when you're speaking of that farm to table, okay, so let's go the other way again. One of our favorite things is beef, right?
And beer.
And I'm all for agronomy. I'm all for us raising plants because plants do make up the plant-based meats. But there's some other things that are in there as well. And not to read their entire list of ingredients, but one of the highest factors that you'd see in there is going to be salt. So if you're supposed to be on a low salt diet, that's going to be a problem. Oh, and then phosphate, which I love this description. Phosphate can be used to prepare the human bowel for a colonoscopy.
Can confirm.
So if you're going to eat a plant-based meat, you're going to want to know your proximity to home, perhaps, or other situations.
Very interesting.
Yes, that's one of the things it can do. Now, there's also a product in there called TBHO, butyl hydrochlorine. My God, there's a lot of letters there.
Yeah, I know
and
that
so
one.
this TBHO, actually you would, Justin, it's in a number of foods such as microwave popcorn, chicken nuggets, and
Pizza
what
rolls.
it does, it's a preservative, probably pizza rolls, because it keeps the oils from oxidizing. So it's actually used in a number of pre-prepared foods already. One other thing that you
Very
might not know
interesting.
about.
You're a wealth of ever since those aliens visited you yesterday. You're a wealth of information.
There is so much going on in my head that wasn't going on like 2 days ago.
And I could see it.
I don't know if I should be frightened or like
Be
Superman. I don't know what's going on. Well, I'm going to figure that out while we take a few moments here to get our guest on the line. If you'd like to join in on our conversation here in about 3 minutes with Dr. Emily Fox from the Ashley Vet Clinic, we're going to be talking about all things horses, especially their health in the winter. And as well as I'm sure we're going to find out a few other fun, interesting stories. So we'd love for you to give us a call, ask those questions, 701-293-9000. Or you can always send those comments to our email, weatheroreg@flagfamily.com. We'll be right back, and when we return, we'll have Dr. Emily Fox on the line with us. Stay tuned.
Attention all business owners who rent or lease space, including storage space. Stop wasting your money paying someone else for your space. You can now save a ton of money and own your own building with the incredible Black Friday sale prices from General Steel. That's right, start saving money every month on renting space from others. Just call 888-74-STEEL to see how General Steel can help you save money. Our 50-year structural warranty buildings are custom designed for your needs and save you a ton of money. Call 888-74-STEEL.
Take it from a successful entrepreneur. If you need to expand or start a new business, you need General Steel.
Great team and the competitive pricing is the reason I went with General Steel.
Call 888-74-STEEL now, and you can get any of our popular quick construction structures, including a 40 by 60 foot building or a 50 by 100 clear span building at Black Friday savings. Call 888-74-STEEL. That's 888-747-8335. 888-74-STEEL.
Download the app, sign up, and say bye-bye, bugs. Tommy's Express Car Wash is that easy. Tommy's offers a cleaner car wash and an overall better experience. Wash your car as often as needed. And the best part, after 3 washes, it pays for itself, and you can use it at all 3 other FM locations. Download the app, pre-buy, and skip the line. Or stop by one of their 3 locally owned Tommy's Express Car Wash locations. Tommy's Express Car Wash. Love your ride.
Hey, you missed the turn. We just passed Brockmeyer Tile and Stone. It's back there.
Where are we going? Brockmeyer Tile and Stone, you know.
They specialize in custom granite and quartz fabrication and installation.
And laser measuring, so we don't have to worry about a thing. I hear their projects are always amazing.
Brockmeyer Tile and Stone, just south of Costco on Veterans Boulevard.
Granite and quartz, it's what we do, baby.
Hey Flag listeners, this is Spencer Brandt from Media Shack LLC. We are your one-stop shop for business branding in Fargo. Whether it's decals, banners, vehicle graphics, custom apparel, and much more, we do it and we do it in-house. Check out our website at MediaShackFargo.com for more information, or on social media at MediaShackFargo. That's MediaShackFargo.com for all your business branding needs.
November is fun at Three Lions Pub on 13th Avenue in West Fargo. Shinerbach Holiday Cheer is on tap. Come out for Blackout Bingo November 22nd to win $10,000. Win great prizes with trivia Monday and Thursday. Wednesday is a late night trivia. Food and drink specials, and Friday nights enjoy a meal for 2, wine included for just $30. First responders, military, and seniors save 15%. Friends, food, and fun at Three Lions Pub on 13th Avenue in West Fargo.
And welcome to WDAY, Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette, Readel, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, as well as Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. Glad you two are having a great time in studio today. Y'all seem to have the giggles, so apparently your sugar level's up. Glad to see the energy, gentlemen. Nice work.
The reason we're excited is because the LRC cycle is about ready to set, and that's just like Christmas for us. So we're
I
getting
didn't get any sleep again.
That too.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I got my Reynolds in the drawer.
I bet you do. And I think someone who maybe is in the same boat as you, who doesn't always get a lot of sleep, is our guest, Dr. Emily Fox. She is a veterinarian. She's with the Ashley Veterinarian Clinic in Ashley, North Dakota, and she's a large animal vet. So she gets those calls late at night when there's something wrong with horses, cattle, sheep, etc. So, Dr. Fox, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
We are great.
Doing
Thank
awesome.
you for joining us. So this time of year, what are people calling you about the most? What's happening at the Ashley Veterinary Clinic?
You know, it's the time of year when a lot of people are coming in to do their regular calf vaccination. So we're getting a lot of people wanting to know if their program is good, if they want to change anything in their vaccine protocol, and a lot of general calf vaccination questions. And in addition, we're getting some questions about calves that are sick from this kind of up and down weather that we've had. But overall, things have been pretty good for everybody.
Now, I know we wanted to talk about horses today, but while you mentioned calves, when you say calves that are sick, this is a big time for weaning. So what are farmers and ranchers looking for in their herd as they're weaning those young calves? What could be some ailments that come across for them?
We see a lot of respiratory disease, a lot of bacterial pneumonia in particular, so a lot of calves with droopy ears, snotty noses, that kind of thing. One of the things, too, when people are weaning is if they're weaning, there can be a lot of stress, so that you can see a rise in that, even things that their immune system normally could battle on its own because of the extra stress. But it's really situationally dependent. I also have some people who are on the other end buying these calves that have just been weaned, and then they're commingling them, so they're putting together calves from different places. And sometimes some calves are more adapted to pathogens that are on one place or another place. And so the act of bringing together big groups of calves from different places, it's kind of like the preschool germs that you see in children. Similar idea. You get a lot of really sick calves just from being commingled.
So with that situation, if you've got the great daycare of calves going on where everybody's commingling their germs, you're able to vaccinate and treat. What types of steps are you taking to overcome those problems for those calves? You can't just hand them a Kleenex.
No, so ideally, I'd really like it if people would contact me before they do something like that, because if we can get some vaccine on board prior to commingling, we can really reduce incidence of disease. So one of the big things is the difference between vaccination and treatment, which you touched on, but the idea that vaccines are meant to prevent things. Vaccines are usually little bits of an antigen where you're priming your immune system to say, hey, look for this guy, whereas treatment would be something more like an antibiotic, where we're actually treating an active infection. So the goal is that we really should do more prevention than treatment. And so sometimes if we work these big groups of calves before they get together, we can help prevent disease by helping their immune systems be primed to look for these things. And that can be really helpful in the long term and can also reduce our incidence of treatment, not only reducing costs, but reducing suffering to the animal, and then also potentially reducing the amount of antibiotics we have to use, which is a good goal.
So I know we're talking about cattle right now, and again, this is Dr. Emily Fox. She is a large animal veterinarian with the Ashley Veterinary Clinic out of Ashley, North Dakota. And Dr. Fox, what about, besides cows, what about sheep? Are you also seeing, is this a good weaning time for sheep, or what's happening in that arena, or corral, if you will?
Sheep are really dependent on producer. There's not a lot of people that I'm seeing weaning lambs right now. We have some, and I don't do as much sheep work, especially with where I am. But one of the biggest things is it really depends on when they market their lambs. Sheep are kind of all over the place depending on if they're fall breeding herds or not and when they're marketing their lambs. So, but certainly in general, when you wean lambs, you can see lots of similar ill thrift things. Anytime that you're stressing animals out to the stress hormones go up, and that actually reduces their immune system's effectiveness. And that's when you tend to see illness in a lot of different animals, including sheep and calves, especially animals that go through those high stress periods like weaning.
And there's plenty of stress right now. I find that pretty wild. You know, we think about our stress levels and how it can wear us out. Well, the same thing happens to our livestock too. Their stress levels can change just like ours do. So let's talk a little bit about horses. There's a lot of folks who listen who have horses or, grew up with horses. They're sort of like a giant pet. So any tips and tricks that you are giving folks with horses as we go into the winter season, things they could be doing for them for their best overall health?
Sure. So I always say with older horses, planning for the winter should start in the spring. So unfortunately, I get contacted a lot this time of year by people whose horses are a little thin going into the winter. They're a little worried about them. And there are still things we can absolutely do, but especially if you have an older horse, the best thing we can do is get started trying to put that weight on and get that horse really doing well going into winter in the spring. So if you have a horse you think is going to be like that this spring, talk to your veterinarian right away. Try to get your horse fixed up in the spring. One big thing is dentistry. So a lot of people don't realize, but horses actually have teeth that continue to erupt throughout their lifetime. They don't actually grow. They're born with a whole bunch of tooth up in their jawbone. And as they age, it descends. And that's why you have to, if you've ever heard someone talk about floating a horse's teeth, the reason that you float the teeth, it's like your tires. You have to rotate your tires, or because you drive in similar patterns all the time, you get areas that wear out and areas that are thick, right? So we rotate our tires to avoid that. In the same way with horses' teeth, because of the wear patterns from them chewing, they will wear down hooks and ramps, so areas that are sharp, these points in their teeth. And because of the way that their teeth erupt throughout their lives, they need to be floated on a fairly regular basis, which depends on the horse. If they're not, you'll see adverse conditions like weight loss, dropping feed, and so it's exceptionally important to make sure that the horse's teeth are in good shape, preferably coming into the summer, so that by winter they have enough weight on them that they can continue to thrive throughout the winter.
So when you say float the teeth, and you made the analogy of rotating the tires on a car, do you like just take the teeth out like Legos and just pop them in somewhere else? Or what is that floating? Like what is floating the teeth? Are you just like kind of reshaping the structure of the tooth, or?
Sure. So we're actually taking those points that are too high and we're filing them down. So in the really old days, the cowboy horse dentists would just use hand floats. I actually still use hand floats quite a bit, which is just a hand file. We just sedate the horse a little bit and it's still standing, and we put a big speculum to hold the mouth open and we file those teeth down. There is also something called a power float, which looks kind of like a big drill, but it's just got a spinning disc on it. We'll also use that. I use a little bit of both. Some people choose to use just one or the other, and sometimes it depends on the horse's temperament, what they find more tolerable.
Right, and that kind of sounds like something like people who grind their teeth in their sleep. They cause their molars just to become flat, and they kind of do a similar thing where they go back in and they drill the grooves back into your teeth so that way you can, chew better. Dean, you were gonna look like you had something.
Yeah, I was gonna. I always go by there's no such thing as a stupid question, just stupid people asking questions. But I've got to ask this because I remember driving by, growing up in a city, and when we go out in the country, we would see these horses, and I'll call them horse sweaters. I mean, they'll be out in the middle of winter with these basic sweaters around their midsection to keep them warm, kind of like a dog sweater. Why would horses need that, and other livestock wouldn't? What's the difference?
So those are blankets, and it's really common to blanket horses. It's more common in certain disciplines, and certain breeds of horses. I actually blanket my horses for a variety of reasons. So the blankets tend to be waterproof and insulated, and not all horses need blankets. Some horses do, and certain conditions necessitate blankets. One example is if you don't want your horse to grow a coat, or if you body clip your horse because you ride heavily in the winter and you don't want the horse to get super sweaty, a lot of those people will clip the horse and then put a blanket on it. That way when they go to ride, they can take the blanket off and the horse won't get too sweaty and then get chilled after the ride. Some horses do necessitate a blanket. So if you buy a southern-born horse in the middle of January, you certainly can't expect them to come up here and grow a coat at that point in time, so you would want to blanket them. I have a thoroughbred that just doesn't grow a coat, so we put a blanket on that horse as well. Also, wet conditions can change that. So if you look at any maybe advertising material or social media for riders from England, Ireland, places that are wetter, their horses almost always have blankets on, even when it's like 40 degrees. And that's because when a horse gets wet, they lose their insulating capacity. So a horse's coat is not all that different than a down comforter. And you can imagine if a down comforter gets wet, there's no insulating capacity and you get cold. Most horses in good body condition, young horses in good body condition, down to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, don't need any additional calories to maintain their body temperature and condition more than they would at a hotter temperature. However, if they get wet, that number jumps up to something like 40 degrees. And it just depends on the horse. The other thing is older horses can have a very, very hard time keeping condition on. When you put a blanket on that horse, you reduce the overall metabolic rate. So you reduce the amount of calories that horse needs just to get by, just to stay warm, right? Because you've raised his body temperature considerably. And by doing that, when you have an older horse that has trouble keeping weight on or is having trouble keeping itself warm, that can be really valuable.
Well, see, that wasn't a dumb
Blankets
question.
can be more.
That was a good question.
No, and actually blankets, I was going to do a little PSA on blankets because a bad blanket or a poorly checked blanket is more harmful than good. I would rather see a client who doesn't check their horses regularly, not blanket their horses and just try to offer some degree of shelter, than put a blanket on and leave it on for weeks at a time without checking it. Blankets left unchecked can get stuck on things, but also under the blankets, we've seen horses lose condition and people don't realize. If the blanket is not very well waterproofed or is a poor quality blanket or older, sometimes they can get wet under the blanket and then get really bad skin infections, or sometimes the blankets can cause rub sores. The other thing is you don't want to leave a blanket on a horse when it gets really hot, because if that horse gets sweaty under that blanket and then the temperature drops again, they'll get a really nasty chill because they'll be wet and they can't dry off. So sometimes no blanket is better than a poorly attended blanket, and I think that's really, really important to remember when you're deciding if you should blanket your horse or not.
Wow, you really know your stuff over there.
That
was a great answer.
I always wondered, growing up in a city, and then when we did go out and drive in the country and it was snowy and we'd see these horses out there and they'd have blankets on them. It's like, well, the other livestock don't have blankets, poor things. They're all getting all snowed up.
All right.
Now we know why.
There you go. Well, we're speaking with Dr. Emily Fox from the Ashley Vet Clinic. We're talking about all things horses, especially their health in the winter. And if you'd like to call in and ask a question or a comment, feel free to do so. 701-293-9000. Again, that phone number to call into our studios and ask those questions, 701-293-9000. Emily, we're going to take just a short break here. I got a few more questions right when we come back out, so stay tuned. Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Kevin Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer's Auction Company. Pfeiffer's upcoming November auctions include nearly 1,000 acres of crop and pasture land in McLean County, 192 acres of cropland in Wells County, 640 acres of cropland in McHenry County near Upham, North Dakota, 320 acres of exceptional crop and hunting land in Ransom County, and 310 acres of crop and pasture land in Barnes County, North Dakota. View these auctions and many more land and farm equipment retirement auctions at Pfeiffer's.com.
The famous chips. The potato chip, the chocolate chip, the computer chip, the poker chip, the paint chip, and the windshield chip. Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead wants to remind you that the difference in temperature outside and inside your vehicle can make a little chip grow into a real budget buster. So make your repair or replacement appointment today at Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead. Call or go online at glassdoctor.com/Fargo. That's glassdoctor.com/Fargo.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your paint.
Celebrating 100 years with $100. Listen every Thursday all year long as we thank you for being a loyal WDAY listener. This is our year, and we want to make it yours too by giving you cash. Listen during Bonnie and Friends, The Coffee Club, WDAY Midday, and The Jay Thomas Show. And if you hear the cue to call, be caller 9 and win $100 from the station celebrating 100 years all year long. AM 970 and FM 93.1 WDAY.
It's Jay and Ronnie from the Coffee Club, and we enjoy drinking coffee because it keeps us energized and focused.
Well, let's be frank. I enjoy drinking coffee because coffee keeps me wide-eyed in the morning, but I'll tell you this type of coffee is organic, specialty-grade coffee, beans selected from the top 2% available, 100% Arabica bean coffee, certified organic, non-GMO, low acidity, rich, smooth, and ready to drink.
The finish is clean and it has a pleasant aftertaste. It's delicious. It's so far the best coffee that we've had. It's also roasted and packed in the US of A. We love it and we guarantee you will too. All you need to do is go to mystore.com, click on My Coffee, and enter the promo code WDAY.
That's promo code WDAY to get your own My Coffee.
It's also roasted and packed in the US of A. We love it and we guarantee you will too. Go to mystore.com, promo code WDAY.
Creative Planning presents Rethink Your Money with John Hagenson, Sunday at 6 a.m. At Creative Planning, we offer full-service, comprehensive wealth management services through our in-house team of wealth managers, accountants, and attorneys to integrate all aspects of your financial life. Don't settle for a standard portfolio or a set-it-and-forget-it plan. Get all the expertise, all the advice you need, all in-house. Visit creativeplanning.com. That's creativeplanning.com.
If you're looking for honest, dependable, over-the-top customer service at affordable prices, you'll want to do business with Welton's Tire Service in Lisbon, North Dakota. Welton's is a name you've grown to trust, proudly serving the area for 50 years. Welton's Tire always works hard for customer satisfaction and service. They offer brands for every make. If you need tires, repair, maintenance, or on-farm tire service, contact Welton's Tire on Main Street in Lisbon. Tell them Beth sent you. Online at weltonstire.net.
NDSCS's apprenticeship program is really based on the typical apprenticeship models that have been in existence for many years. But currently there are over 1,000 apprenticeable occupations that are recognized by the United States Department of Labor.
Hi, my name is Pamela Morrow, Project Specialist for NDSCS Apprenticeship. If you're interested in a program, please reach out today by calling 701-231-6927.
See if the NDSCS Apprenticeship Program is for you.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us. 1:38 right now. Mid-teens outside. Chilly, chilly day.
January.
It's no February. We have Dr. Emily Fox on the line with us from Ashley Vet Clinic. We're talking all things about horses and their health throughout the winter and a few other things. If you'd like to join in on our conversation, feel free to do so by giving us a phone call, 701-293-9000. Now, Emily, I had mentioned I had a couple of questions, and I wanted to revisit this horse teeth dentistry. You had mentioned, before we get back into spring, sorry about that. You wanted to try and make sure that you can fatten them up for the upcoming winter if they're a little low on weight, and after you fix their teeth and whatnot. After you do all that, what does it look like, or what do you recommend for putting weight on a horse? I mean, obviously you got to do a little something more than just the regular feeding. What's that diet look like, and what are you recommending people to do?
So it largely depends on how the horse lost the weight to begin with. If we have a horse like a senior horse, right, floating the teeth might be part of it, and then we might put them on senior feed. Senior feed would be a commercialized product. You can get it somewhere like a Runnings or Tractor Supply or your local elevator. Senior feeds tend to be a little bit different nutritionally, but they're also a little different in terms of how they're constructed. They're supposed to be really easy to chew. Senior feeds are not wrong necessarily for younger horses. There are some younger horses that go on senior feed as well. And they actually are credited with probably adding more time to horses' lives than anything else we do between dentistry and senior feed. If you look at the average lifespan of, say, your wild horse, which doesn't get its teeth floated, and our domesticated horses, which get their teeth floated and senior feed, it can be tremendously different, and that's one of the big reasons. Other things that could be added are things like fat supplements, or if you've got a horse that might be losing weight for other reasons, internal parasites, all those things are things that you should check in with your vet about. If your horse is kind of getting behind on weight, it's a lot easier to stop weight loss than it is to try to put pounds back on, particularly in a cold season. So it's really, really good to just stop in and visit with your veterinarian or give them a call.
So you shouldn't just go out to your local horse dealership place, just buy a bunch of big bags of treats and just let the horses go to town?
I mean, your horses might really like that, but it would probably be better to know why they're losing weight.
You had made a comment that there could be, something internal that's causing your horses to lose weight, like a parasite. We know that some animals can get tapeworms, what kind of parasites can horses get that people maybe want to keep in mind if their horses are losing weight, or something that could affect their horse like that?
So horses can get tapeworms. I don't see them as much in this part of the country, but they're definitely a thing. The two biggest things that I see are roundworms, and I see a lot of bots. So roundworms, they can cause impactions. They can actually cause your horse to colic and either need colic surgery, or they actually can be deadly if they burst in the intestines, which is pretty serious. But before that point, they can just cause ill thrift, malaise, weight loss. General wormers like ivermectin, the things that you get in the tube at the local store, can be really helpful for that. The other thing that we see a lot of in this part of the country are bot flies, which are big flies that fly around towards the middle and end of the summer. They lay these yellow eggs that stick to your horse's hair. If anyone's a horse owner who's listening, you'll see kind of like little tiny yellow dots on your horse's legs and on their necks sticking to the hair. Those are bot eggs. And they stick there on purpose so that when the horse goes to itch its leg with its nose, which horses often do, they'll inadvertently ingest some of them, and then they'll hatch out in the stomach lining of the horse. And I was actually there years ago when I was in school when a horse was endoscoped. So we took a big, long camera and went down a horse's stomach that actually had bots, and they look awful. They look like little cockroaches clinging to the inside of the stomach. And for listeners, do not be embarrassed if you think your horse has bots or you don't know. My horse even had bots one year, and I deworm my horses fairly regularly. You don't want to over deworm, but I generally, for most clients, recommend deworming at least once after the hard frost, because then you know they're not going to get bots again throughout the year, and you know they'll be safe from the bots for the winter.
And how about when it comes to the winter season? We all know that, us people, we have our cold and flu season that rolls around about now and then peaks up into, February. Is there a time period throughout the winter where horses are more susceptible to getting sick or some respiratory issues?
So generally, I see an uptick in viral respiratory issues and bacterial respiratory issues in horses actually in the summer, because there's more commingling of horses in the summer. Horses come together for things like brandings and play days, and that's when they tend to see horses from different environments. And like we talked about with the calves, the commingling is the main event. However, one thing you will see this time of year is what old horsemen call heaves. Some people would call it COPD or RAO, which are just fancy acronyms, but it kind of acts like almost like asthma in people. It is a fairly environmentally triggered allergic disease. A lot of the time you'll have a horse that's never had it before. It doesn't start up usually until middle age. And all of a sudden your horse will just seem kind of wheezy or start coughing a little bit. And it tends to flare up the most when they start to go back on bales of hay, because the dust exacerbates the symptoms. And heaves is a manageable disease, but it's not something that you just give a shot and cure. It's something you need to work with a vet to manage. A lot of the time it involves environmental management. A lot of heavy horses don't do as well in a barn environment, or sometimes putting a net over their hay bale so they can't stick their whole nose in there and inhale a bunch of dust can be very helpful. Some horses with heaves will even develop what's called a heave line, which is a kind of irregular muscle structure along their stomach. All of a sudden you'll see kind of a tucked up muscle. That's because they've been heaving so much and breathing so much that their musculature has actually changed. So it's super important to get heaves under control, and definitely worth talking to your vet about if you think your horse might have heaves.
So Emily, you've been answering so many questions to us in regards to that overall health for the horse. And I heard you say something about horse dentistry, which I didn't realize there were that many equine specialties within being a veterinarian. Do you also have a horse chiropractor, or do you have someone who can do something like that for your animal?
Right. So actually there are a variety of different levels of horse chiropractors, acupuncturists, and body workers and masseuses, depending on where you are and what level of performance you're in. I have thought about becoming equine acupuncture certified. I am not currently. It's a lot of extra time commitment. It's very cool though, and there are, I think, probably a few people who would do it up by Fargo. So that's usually a veterinarian, because you're putting needles in and it is a medical discipline. Most equine chiropractors, I believe, are also veterinarians. And then there are also people who do massage and body work. So there's a young lady who's not a veterinarian in my area who's an excellent body worker who comes and helps with myofascial release. I have 2 horses that don't really need it, and then I have 1 horse that gets really, really tight in her shoulder, and it's a very dramatic difference when the body worker has come versus not come. We only have to do it once or twice a year, but it seems to make a really big difference. And certainly if you have a horse that's tight backed, which some horses can get in the winter, it may be very worthwhile to consider.
Emily, I want to ask you, from the last time that you were on with us earlier this year, has there been any headway or on getting you your own TV show? I know we had brought that up last time.
I haven't really tried yet. I haven't really tried yet, although maybe I should. Although I don't know if the camera crews would want to tolerate some of the winter weather that we see here in North Dakota. When I watch all those vet shows on TV, I always think, gosh, that looks nice, because they're not usually in quite as much snow or cold as we are here. I'm actually going to go preg check some cattle out in this weather after I get off the phone with you all. And it's not too bad today, but there are days when I don't think the camera crew would appreciate it.
That would be tomorrow.
I'm sure that we can get a Netflix or Hulu interested. Maybe have you ever thought about starting off with YouTube? Do you do anything with YouTube in your practices?
No, we really don't. And we kind of talked about it, and I think maybe that would be a good idea for engagement. I want to make sure that the information that we're putting out there is good and positive, and I certainly never want anyone to use information that I'm giving as a substitute for a good relationship with their veterinarian. You see a lot of people on the internet asking questions, or people who are former clients will call me with questions, and they'll have already seen another veterinarian and they want a second opinion, which is absolutely fine. But I always say the best opinion is the opinion of the person who's actually seen the animal. Because it's really hard to diagnose something over the phone or over the internet. And while I would certainly be interested in doing some videos to maybe raise awareness, I always want to make sure that people put that relationship with their veterinarian first. And I wouldn't want to put out any information that they would be substituting for somebody actually taking a look at their animal, because I do think that's really important.
Right. And we just had a caller call and didn't have time to jump on the air with us, but they wanted to know, can you get anthrax from cattle?
Can you get anthrax from cattle? So this is an interesting question. Yes. But it's usually the cutaneous form. I should preface this with, I am not an infectious disease specialist, nor am I technically qualified to comment on human health. So if you think you've been exposed to anthrax, you should certainly immediately contact a public health official. Anthrax, or Bacillus anthracis, is a bacterial disease that can live in soil. It's extremely environmentally persistent. So actually, you're more likely to get it from your environment necessarily than cattle. But what can happen is those spores can come out of hiding, usually in times of lots of drought, lots of flood, and when those spores come out, they can cause either the inhaled or respiratory form of anthrax, which is extremely serious and usually deadly, as well as the cutaneous form, which is the skin form. Usually that one's not deadly unless it's left untreated, but it should still be treated. Cattle, if you open the body of an animal that has died of anthrax to do a necropsy, which is an animal autopsy, you can be exposed to those anthrax spores by the blood, absolutely. If living cattle are unlikely to be able to transmit anthrax to you, however, because generally anthrax is very quickly fatal, and so they would be dead by that point, which is why if you don't know why something died, probably worth contacting your veterinarian and not just cutting it open yourself unless you've already spoken to your veterinarian, because that could put you in a dangerous situation.
Wow. Another great answer. Thank you very much. And we got to run on out of here. So, Dr. Emily Fox, if anyone out there listening, they have more questions or they want to get in contact with you, or maybe they just want to switch providers after listening to how smart and engaged your your answers were from our questions, how can they reach you or get in contact with you?
Sure. So we have an Ashley Veterinary Clinic Facebook page. We're available via Facebook, but the best way to get in contact with me is by calling our office or emailing us, ashleyvetclinic@outlook.com. And if they have any more questions, certainly I'd be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick moment to check in with the American Ag Network, and then Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be right back.
Did you know that periodontal disease is the #1 health problem in small animal patients? Hello, I'm Dr. Calderwood, a veterinary dental practitioner at Prairie Winds Veterinary Center. By 2 years of age, 80% of dogs and 70% of cats have some form of periodontal disease. If you notice a change in your pet's playful habits, breath, or facial swelling, there's a chance that your pet is suffering from mouth pain. Prairie Winds Veterinary Center can help. Call us at 701-356-5600 or learn more at prairiewindsvet.com.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending Ooma and their all-in-one phone, video, and collaboration solution.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma, smart communications for the smarter business.
I'm Tamron Hall. Doesn't your family deserve the best? Eggland's best eggs. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Give you and your family more. More delicious farm-fresh taste, plus superior nutrition. Compared to ordinary eggs, Eggland's Best provides 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat. These are no ordinary times, so why choose an ordinary egg? Only Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Finding the right Medicare plan? Oof, no easy feat. Kind of like those dances my granddaughter loves making me do. But then I found Walgreens FindRx coverage. Lets you compare plans online, over the phone, or in person. Made Medicare shopping so easy. Plus, I found plans with low-cost copays. I can get down with that. Medicare annual enrollment ends December 7th. Find a plan that's right for you at walgreens.com/Medicare.
Grain markets close lower, livestock trade higher on Wednesday. You're listening to the American Ag Network. I'm Jesse Allen with this closing market update. Well, we saw soybeans and beet oil plunging, no doubt impacted by the sharp slide in crude oil prices. We saw wheat also under some heavy selling pressure. We did come off the lows a bit, but wheat still following lower here with soybeans. And really the markets overall reacting to the news that apparently the Errant missile that fell in Poland may have come from Ukraine defense systems. So an easing of the tensions in the Black Sea. There is a lot of talk about the Ukraine grain deal being extended and Russia agreeing to an extension of the deal that expires on the 19th. So that optimism weighing on the grains and oilseeds as a whole on the day. Meantime, in the livestock trade, mostly higher in cattle and hogs. We've got some bids developing in cash country for cattle, but still not a whole lot of activity. But nonetheless, a decent day there to wrap things up on Wednesday's trade. Final numbers on the day. Wednesday, corn December 1.5 lower, 665 1/4. March corn down 1 3/4, 667 1/2. January beans 28 lower, 1429 1/4. March down 27, 1434 3/4. Bean meal December down 330 a ton, 406.60. Bean oil December down 290 points, 74.08. Chicago wheat December 10 3/4 lower, 817 1/2. March down 10 3/4, 837 1/4. KC wheat December 7.5 lower, 955 1/2. Spring wheat December down 9 3/4, 964 1/4. March spring wheat that was down 9 3/4, 972 3/4. Lean hogs December up 25, 85.57. February up 27, 90.35. Feeder cattle November up 2, 175.70. And live cattle December up 52, 151.80. February up 120, 154.25. April up $1, 157.72. This is the American Ag Network. I'm Jesse Allen.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. It's, Dr. Emily Fox, she is a wealth of knowledge and interesting about horses and just...
She knew a lot.
Well, she should. She's smart.
And not like a lot, but like exactly, like just everything. Wow.
Like she went to school for a long time. You know, there's that whole 10 years to get a degree type of thing. That
would do it.
Yes, it will.
That would do it.
Now, Dean, when you said we're so glad everyone's joining us, I just want to also reiterate, thank you for coming in yesterday to visit with us and see us. We really appreciated that. That was awesome for everyone to stop, say hi. And if you have more questions, want to give us some homework, so to speak, on weather or ag, you're always welcome to do that. Again, our email's weather or ag@flagfamily.com. But thanks again for stopping in yesterday. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to meet everyone who stopped by and said hi, shook a few hands, and
talked a little bit about. We had a nice little powwow in our weather office about the LRC and the upcoming season, and a lot of good questions and just a lot of great visitors. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming out yesterday. It was fun. Let's hit quickly on little local, little national weather. Nationally. Big weather story is the cold air that's going to be dumping into the northern plains. There's going to be records set. I don't think any record cold, but record cold highs are a good bet from parts of the northern plains into the Great Lakes. And the other big weather story in the nation is going to be the lake effect snow. We could be looking at record amounts of lake effect snow areas around Buffalo, New York, any downwind of the Lake Erie really going to get pounded. Areas of Michigan are going to get hit pretty hard with lake effect snow. So if you have any plans going that direction, they are going to get hit. I believe the record for Buffalo is 34 inches, and they're looking at getting possibly 2 to 3 feet over the weekend. So some pretty wild weather there. That makes our light snow look pretty tame. Currently, we're in the teens. We do have a band of light to moderate snow out to our west. This will be pushing in here over the next couple of hours. So your commute home, if you're leaving early, could run into some reduced visibility. It's a pretty quick-moving band of snow, about 50 miles wide or so. But that'll be moving in as we head towards about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then lasting for an hour or two. And then just scattered snow showers after that. But the big news is we're going to get a lot of wind coming in here tomorrow with more scattered snow showers. No big snows, but over the next 24 to 36 hours, about 1 to 3 inches expected across the area. Again, you factor in the strong 30-mile-an-hour winds and gusting even higher than that tomorrow. We could be looking at some travel problems tomorrow with reduced visibility and blowing snow. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're going to be out and about over the next few days. If you have errands to run, try and get them done here within the next hour or so before conditions start to go downhill a little bit.
Yeah, we saw kind of something similar come through last night, but instead of from the west, it came from the east with some snow showers that
you don't
pushed
see
out
that
Lakes
often.
Country, Minnesota. No, you really don't.
Don't see that too often.
Happens every once in a while, but I saw them and I'm like, oh, wait, those are moving west. What are they doing? And I ended up getting stuck in it for a little bit. It wasn't terrible, but it's just enough, like Dean said, to make the road slicken up pretty quick. So we'll be dealing with a little something similar to what happened yesterday evening and last night.
So
in here in a couple
I was just looking up some climate data because I was curious. We're going to be in the teens on Friday, and I was wondering, is that a record cold high for us? Not even close.
Ooh.
Our record cold high on Friday is 5 above. Can you imagine for an afternoon high?
I mean, that's not far off.
Not too far off, but areas I know down to our south, Minneapolis, down towards Chicago, they might be setting some record cold highs. And this is going to be, again, when this recycles back over the next couple of cycles in the winter, we're deeper into winter. Again, we're going to be looking at areas of record cold. We're going to see a lot of really, just a heads up, this winter, I think it's going to be one of those roller coaster ride winters you're going to see some record cold lasting for, 6-7 days, maybe a touch longer, and then rapidly warming up. Now, rapidly warming up in the middle of the winter could be up into the 20s, but I mean, it's a little relief. But this is going to be an interesting roller coaster ride winter, and it'll be interesting to see once the LRC cycle sets itself how this is looking, how this is going to pan out.
It would be a great opportunity to plug our winter LRC special.
Yes.
That will be coming up here soon in December.
Our winter weather outlook, it's not far away. We're looking at December 7th. So make sure you join us. It'll be from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock on the Jay Thomas Show here on WDAY. We'll be simulcasting that also on our sister station, The Flag. And if you can't listen, we will we'll have it recorded, or you can watch us online as well. It'll be me, myself, we'll have Bridgette, we'll have Justin, and we'll have Gary Lezak, who is the founder of the LRC, kind of going over and pinpointing some pretty important days throughout the winter and into spring of either big cold snaps, possible big storms, or possible dry streaks. And we can follow that all the way into the summer if we like, but we're going to concentrate basically on winter and spring. That's going to about do it for us. You kind of held your own today. You didn't have the tin foil hat theories or anything like that. You didn't talk about HARP once. So we better get out of here before he does. But we want to thank everybody, for myself, for Bridgette and Justin. Thank you for joining us. Have yourself a great day. If you're going to be out and about in the FM area over the next couple of hours, be prepared for some reduced visibility and some snow. Have a great night.
970 WDAY AM and